you start out on fifth position in what we call a campanella style scale, right? So it's a scale that you do across strings. It makes it sound like a harp, it makes it sound like a chord, and it is really a scale. So it has this added sonority of notes that kind of overlap each other. So you start with the A, that's the seventh fret, fourth string, open B string, right? So that's thumb, middle. Then the index finger is going to grab the C on the fifth fret of the third string, right? And then your ring finger is going to grab the first string. And now that you've reached the first string, you're going to continue, right? So you have your A minor scale. Again, nice and slow. You're going to add your accompaniment as a bar, mini bar on the fifth fret. And then you're going to jump over to the 12th fret. And here comes the dominant chord, the E7 chord, right? So let's just pull that apart. That's a D, that's an E, and that's your B. And so it gives you this sense of instability that is the E major 7, that's the more present chord. And then back to the A minor chord, you actually take a step back. And as a good waltz, always strongest, weaker, weakest, right? So let's put that phrase together. The next phrase starts in very much the same way, but it has a little bit of a turn, right? Let's take a look. Then you change position over to second position, right? You still grab a mini bar, the first three strings, and then your pinky grabs the A. You're on an A major chord, right? So you've tonicized this key, right? You've made A now A major. Now it is an A7, and that is the dominant of D minor. So this chord now takes much more of a presence because it's a dominant chord, and it's going to take you to D minor, right? So when it resolves, it takes a step back. Then you're going to jump back to fifth position, right? So apparently it's a D minor chord. Then you have that A sharp, B flat, right? And it's a good place for an arpeggio. It's really causing tensions. Back to D minor, and then so you're kind of back on A minor, but your bass is E bass. So that adds a level of instability. You're not fully back on A minor. And there's a good reason for it, because you're going to go over to a diminished dominant, right? As you arrive here, this is a B dominant chord, right? You got the A, which is your seventh, right? But just moving a half step from that B, you're changing the chord completely by adding a C instead of a B, right? That stays the same, right? You got your F sharp, your A, and your D sharp, right? By putting that C natural in here, you've changed everything completely, right? You no longer are playing the F sharp, right? But listen, you got a D sharp, an A, and a C in the bottom, right? That is a D sharp diminished chord with the seventh in the bottom. That is extremely unstable, and it really wants to resolve, and it resolves over to an E major chord gloriously, right? So we start with this B7 chord that, by messing with the C natural, kind of is hinting at a D7 diminished chord that, right? So whether a B7 chord or D sharp diminished chord, you're pushing, you're moving towards that E major. And E major is the dominant key of A minor, and so that brings us right back to the original theme. Let's take a look. Quite an unusual turn right there, right? So you're moving the melody around to work and bring us back to the dominant so that we can end the piece, right? Here's the dominant, still in dominant, E and D, then B, and you still have that E ringing, and that's your tonic. As you arrive in the maggiore, which is the major part, you are in C major, the major relative of the original key, right? So you have a break from A minor, now you have the brilliance of C major. Now, from C major, you're going to go on to kind of like a major A, right? And then you're going to mess with that A, kind of like playing with modes here, a bit of a Phrygian idea. Then that A is the dominant in a way of D minor, but it doesn't feel like D minor right away because of that G. That would in itself would hint at G major, but it is not, because it's only a suspension that brings you to D minor. Then still in D minor, then we're going to get that G feel, right? So it's still 5 notes coming down. You feel that it's, although D minor pulls down to G, but in this case, you add that F natural there. That's going to make it feel like a dominant, which it is. And speaking of the F, you're just kind of dancing around, stepping on top of that 7th. Right? So you are in G territory, you are in a dominant G, but your F is now in the bottom, so you have now the 7th. And then you are going to go to C major, but he is not ready to finish the piece. He's going to give you C major, but it's inverted. So you're going to find a 3rd in the bass, right? He denies you the ability of, right? That really closes things, but he's not ready to close it. And then it's a complete tour, the G major, right? So G, G, G. He's reinforcing that G to just start over again. A major, a little bit of Phrygian. So he inserts an F major chord that immediately becomes F minor by making the A flat. And at the same time that he makes the A flat, he's going to insert a D. So you have a flat 5, right? So all of a sudden, it's not a D minor chord, but you have this sense of flat 5 that is going to bring you kind of to a G major chord, but it's not really, because you have that E there, right? It feels like E minor, feels like C major. Now we know he's going to go to C major, but he's going to make it more interesting than that. Still inserting that F, so not leaving the idea of a G being a dominant. And here's the G dominant and C major. So here's the second section. Set up 1 and 2 stacked on top of each other, 2nd and 3rd string. Add 3, come back. Descending 1 off. Better from 4 to 1, D to C. back to the very beginning.